Recently, I've started reading Berserk. For those who don't know what Berserk is one of the greatest BL, or yaoi, mangas ever published, standing alongside titles such as Hunter x Hunter, JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, and Monotone Blue. A dark fantasy, Berserk follows the struggles of Guts after God convinced Guts' boyfriend Griffith to break up with Guts. It's a harsh tale with non-consensual acts and misogyny like most yaoi, though fortunately I'm not reviewing the manga. Rather, I'll be talking about one of its video games, the 1999 Dreamcast title, Berserk Millennium Falcon Arc Chapter The Flowers of Oblivion, also known by its localized title as Sword of the Berserk Guts Rage. I'll be referring to it as Berserk Dreamcast for the sake of brevity. So let's contextualize the game. Written by the mangaka Kentaro Miura himself, Berserk Dreamcast is set in between volumes 22 and 23 of the manga. At this point of the story, Guts, Puck, and Casca just started a long-term travel to Alfheim, seeking refuge from a monster-attracting brand placed on Guts and Casca during the eclipse. That's all you really need to know, though the game does include a glossary of world-building stuff and basic character profiles. Worth noting, said glossary was necessary given Berserk Dreamcast was the first piece of Berserk media with an official overseas release, and it would be many years before Dark Horse reached Volume 22. Also, Puck is trans-mask according to the glossary, so that's neat. With context granted, what's the gameplay like? Berserk Dreamcast is a 3D hack and slash. A little jank, to be honest. You have to consider nearby walls when attacking, and Guts commits to most actions, but otherwise I'd say it captures the struggler quite well. Runs well too. You got an unarmed moveset that's weak but safe in tight spaces. A slab moveset that's risky but deals the good damage. A jump that opens up an attack on the slab moveset that ignores the penalty of wall collision. A slide that lets you reposition and stun weak enemies. A block you can dash in, and consumables like throwing knives, sticky explosives, fairy powder for healing, and the cannon. Guts also goes berserk when the bar fills up, granting you invincibility, increased damage, and lets your slab ignore walls. Stages are moderately difficult on normal. Unfortunately, the game has a live system and questionable checkpointing. This isn't so bad on emulator cause save states, but it sucks I have to bring it up. Also, shout out to the chase segment near the end of the game. You'll definitely want to use save states there. The camera is only a problem for some bosses, but otherwise the fixed angles work out fine. Enemy hit stun can be rather annoying, but I may also just be exposing my inexperience with action games with this statement. As for writing and presentation, thankfully Zero is far stricter than Myra's editor, so the sex stuff is thankfully minimal, especially compared to the manga. Otherwise it's Berserk, so dark tone, violence, and a little philosophical prattle are a given. The plot, while it can be seen as a filler arc, fits in just fine with the manga. Without spoiling much, it kinda reminds me of Black Swordsman or Lost Children, in that it tells a small-scale story Guts is dragged into about good people doing bad things out of desperation. While the localization is inconsistent with later content and some text has errors, I find the dialogue generally works, the English dub is pretty solid, and the audio quality is pretty good. Also, they credit the English dub cast in the credits. Here's an example of said dub.
Now, before I welcome you both more formally, there is something I would like you to see. No, it is too dangerous for them. I want you to come alone.
Don't worry, Gatsu. I'll take good care of her.
If something happens, come get me.
As you can tell, the cutscenes themselves are pretty good. There's a lot of them too. Feels like watching an anime. Hell, I'd say this looks better than the 2016 anime, all with in-engine graphics at that. Bizarre to think that the PlayStation 1 was still getting games when this came out. The art in general is good, as in line with what to expect from Berserk, barring the sex and nudity, of course. Gore mostly amounts to the occasional bisection, decapitation, and blood spray on some kills. The sound design is generally solid. It can get satisfying just slicing apart clusters of enemies. The soundtrack was done by Berserk anime composer Susumu Hirasawa and in-house composers Masaya Emoto and Hiromi Murakami. It's hard to pin down the genre mainly because of the mix of synthesizers and Hirasawa's enchanting vocals, but it's the good stuff. Like the dub, the audio quality for the music is also the good stuff. Even got a remix of Forces for the opening of the game. The game is short, clocking in at 3 to 4 hours depending on if you're a filthy save states user like I am. Beating the game unlocks bonus content based on difficulty. As I played on normal, I got a score attack where you can refight bosses or stages, unlocking images in the gallery for trying it. Yeah, you don't need to beat a score or anything, so completing the game is fairly easy. Dreamcast emulation was rather easy to set up. I used Flycast, which is pre-configured well for the most part. Didn't even have to remap or configure my controller. No issues running the game either. Most I noticed graphically was Balzac's hair being weird, but that could just be an issue inherent to the game. As for my verdict, would I recommend the game? Sure. As someone still going through the manga, it's nice to see a side story by the manga's writer and how Guts is adapted into a video game. Outside of that, it's a solid 3D action game and a nice example of what the Dreamcast could do. So with that said, like, comment, and subscribe, and good luck with your day. Maybe put some Berserk Dreamcast in it. Bye!